They say time heals. That's a lie. Time only stretches the pain, like an old film you watch over and over, colorless, emotionless, but still it hurts. It's been 5 years. 5 long, heavy years since I left this city without saying goodbye. I just disappeared. Quietly. No explanations. No words. But what could I have said when there was a lump in my throat and my heart refused to speak? Back then, I thought I was doing the right thing. That leaving was also a choice. That silence was its own form of love. Now I know I was wrong. And here I am. Again. Standing on the platform, staring at the familiar signs, the same old streets, and for the first time in years, I'm afraid. Not of the city. I'm afraid of seeing her. Afraid of watching how she lives without me. Afraid that she's learned not to remember my name. Afraid it's too late to say anything at all. But I came back because right here, where words end, my story has to begin. The city met me with gray skies and the scent of linden trees. I always associated July with those blossoms, they bloomed in our courtyard every summer. It was in July that I first held her hand. It was in July that I left her behind. And now, in July, I was back. The old neighborhood hadn't changed much. Same bus stop. Same graffiti on the shop wall. Same balconies cluttered with flowers and broken chairs. I walked slowly, looking into windows like I was searching for faces from the past and yet terrified I might actually find one. Am I really here? I muttered under my breath. In my hand an old duffel bag. In my pocket a letter. The only one I ever got from her after I vanished. You could have at least said something. One sentence. One damn word. But you chose silence. I had read that letter hundreds of times. Every time it felt like a punch to the chest. I never answered. I didn't have the right. But now I couldn't stay silent any longer. I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. Her apartment was in the corner. Green door. Always creaked. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought the whole building could hear it. Knock knock. Silence. Again. Knock knock. The door opened. But it wasn't her. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, stood in front of me. Curly hair. Big gray eyes. Are you here to see my mom? She asked plainly. Does Sophia live here? Yeah. But Mom's not home right now. Who are you? Mom. She's a mother. Those words hit me like lightning. I stepped back, struggling to breathe. I'm an old friend, I barely whispered. Tell her. Lev stopped by. The girl nodded seriously. I turned and walked away. And only outside did it hit me. She was her daughter. And maybe mine. I didn't go far. I sat down on the old bench across the courtyard from her building, the same one where we used to sit as teenagers, trading stories and dreams, thinking life could be paused there forever. But life never pauses. It moves like a train you either catch or miss. I missed mine once. Now I was trying to chase it on foot. The girl's eyes haunted me. Those gray eyes. Her eyes. I reached into my bag and pulled out a crumpled photo, the only one I kept all these years. It was us, sitting on this same bench, 17 and stupidly in love. I was holding her hand. She was laughing. She always laughed with her whole heart, loud, fearless, like the world couldn't touch her. Flashback, summer, 2015. Promise me something, she whispered that night. We were lying on the hood of my dad's old car, staring at the stars. Anything, I said. That no matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, you won't disappear on me. I turned to her. Why would I ever do that? I don't know, she shrugged. People leave. My dad did. Yours almost did too. I'm not your dad. I know. She looked away. But I'm scared, Leviticus. Of loving someone too much and watching them vanish. I kissed her then. I'm not going anywhere. I lied. Back to present. The irony was cruel. I didn't just vanish. I vanished exactly the way she feared. And I never told her why. Because how do you tell someone the truth when the truth is ugly? That you were scared. Not of her. Not of love. But of yourself. Of becoming the man your own father was: violent, absent, cold. When I got that scholarship out of state, I should have celebrated with her. Instead, I ran. I didn't tell her because deep down I believed I'd only ruin her life if I stayed. I thought leaving was protecting her. It took me 5 years to realize that running is never love. It's just cowardice with a noble excuse. The next day, I went to the local coffee shop. It was run by our mutual friend, Max. Or used to be. He was the only one who knew everything. When I stepped inside, the bell jingled, and Max looked up from behind the counter. The moment our eyes met, he froze. Holy shit. Hey, I said simply. He stepped around the bar and punched me in the shoulder, not too hard, but not gently either. That's for disappearing like a damn ghost. I deserved that. You deserved worse. You broke her, Leviticus. I know. He studied me for a long second. She cried for months. And then she stopped talking about you altogether. That was worse. Is she happy now? Max sighed, poured 2 coffees, handed me one. She was. She tried to be. She met a guy a couple years after you left. Lucas. They were together for a while. He wanted to marry her. What happened? He wasn't you. My throat tightened. And the kid? I asked carefully. Max stared at me over the rim of his cup. You don't know? I shook my head. Man. You really were gone. Is she mine? She never said. But the timing, the way she looks at that girl, there's a lot she never talks about, Leviticus. A lot buried deep. I felt the air leave my lungs. A daughter. Maybe mine. And I'd missed her whole life. I found her 3 days later. She was walking out of a bookstore downtown, the girl holding her hand. And for a moment, I froze. I couldn't breathe. Sophia. She looked older, yes, but not in a bad way. Just more solid. Like life had shaped her edges. Her hair was longer, darker. But those eyes, still bright, still stormy. When she saw me, she stopped. Time didn't just freeze. It collapsed. Hi, I said. Her lips parted slightly. No sound. Then. You have some nerve. She looked down at her daughter. Sweetheart, wait inside for a second. The girl obeyed. Sophia turned back to me. 5 years. Nothing. And you show up on a random Tuesday like it's nothing? I wanted to come sooner. Then why didn't you? I was scared. Of what? Of not being enough. Of hurting you. You already did. She folded her arms. Her voice was sharp, but I could see her hands trembling. I didn't know about her, I whispered. You still don't know if she's yours. Is she? She looked away. I don't know. Silence. Then she added, more quietly. But I named her Liana. After your grandmother. My knees almost gave out. Sophia turned to leave. I didn't come to take anything from you, I said. Not her. Not you. I wanted to say what I never did. She paused. Then say it. I loved you. I still do. And I never stopped. Even when I was gone. She didn't look back. But I saw the way her shoulders shook as she walked away. I hated him. I hated that I didn't really hate him. When I saw him standing outside the bookstore, time didn't stop, it snapped. Like a brittle bone that had been healing wrong for years and suddenly broke clean. For 5 years, I'd been sewing myself back together. Piece by piece. After he left, I swore I'd never let someone in like that again. Lucas tried. He was kind. Gentle. Predictable. But he didn't have Lev's fire. His chaos. His honesty. Lev never lied to me. He just left me without a word. And maybe that was worse. I watched Liana sleep that night, her arm wrapped around her stuffed elephant, her lips parted slightly. And all I could see was him. She had his eyes. His smile. The same stubborn tilt of her chin when she was mad. I told myself it didn't matter. That I'd raised her alone. That I didn't need a paternity test to know she was mine, and that was enough. But deep down, I always knew. She was his too. It was raining that night. I remember the way his hoodie soaked through, how his fingers trembled when he held mine. We'd argued again. He told me he got into a university in another state. I said I was proud. He said he wasn't going. I asked why. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Because I'll turn into my father if I go. And I'd rather stay here and rot than become him." That was the first time I saw fear in him. He didn't cry. Lev never cried. But I could see it in his clenched jaw, in how his nails dug into his palms. "You won't become your father," I whispered. "You don't know that." We sat in silence after that. I thought we had time. Time to figure it out. To grow up. To stay. He kissed me in the rain and said, "I'm not going anywhere." But the next morning, he was gone. No call. No note. Just gone. And 2 weeks later, 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. I didn't sleep that night. I walked through the city like a ghost. Every corner reminded me of her. Of us. Of what I destroyed. By the next afternoon, I found myself standing outside the school where Liana studied. I didn't plan to be there. My feet brought me like they had a mind of their own. And then, there she was. Running out the front gate. Laughing with a friend. Backpack bouncing against her spine. She looked so much like Sophia in 7th grade, it punched the breath out of me. I didn't approach. I just watched. A few minutes later, Sophia arrived to pick her up. She didn't see me, but Liana did. Her eyes met mine. Curious. Searching. And then, a small, uncertain smile. My heart cracked. I left before Sophia turned around. But something shifted in me. I couldn't just watch anymore of that evening. I stood in front of her building again. This time, I knocked with purpose. Sophia opened the door slowly. "I shouldn't have just shown up at the school," I said quickly. I didn't mean to scare her. "She wasn't scared," Sophia replied. "She asked me if you were a friend from my stories." I smiled, surprised. "You talked about me?" "Sometimes," she said. "Not enough. Maybe too much. I don't know anymore." Silence. "I'd like to see her," I said softly. "Not today. Not soon. Just, eventually. With your permission." Sophia's expression tightened. "I don't know if I can trust you with her," she whispered. "You walked out on me, Leviticus. But she's a child. She doesn't know how to survive being left." "I won't leave again." "You said that before." "I'll prove it this time." She hesitated. Then stepped aside. "Come in." Her apartment smelled like cinnamon and old books, just like it used to. Except everything was quieter. The walls, the air, even her voice. She made tea. The same way as always, 3 sugars for me, none for her. We sat at the kitchen table, and for a moment, I was 17 again. Do you love her? I asked. Liana? I nodded. With every piece of me, she said without hesitation. Even the broken ones. I missed everything, I murmured. Her first steps, her first words. She used to say Star before she could say Mom, Sophia said with a smile. She thought the night sky was talking to her. Silence. I never stopped loving you, I said. Even when I was gone. I know, she whispered. But loving someone isn't the same as choosing them. That line cut deep. A few days later, I saw them both again. Sophia invited me to meet Liana properly, in the park, neutral ground. She ran up to me and asked, "Did you really draw comics when you were a kid?" I smiled. I did. Want to see? She nodded excitedly. We sat on the bench, flipping through my old sketchbook. Liana laughed so hard at one of the doodles, she dropped ice cream on her shoe. It was small. Silly. But it meant the world to me. For the first time in years, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope. And then, Sophia smiled too. Really smiled that night. We talked again. She told me everything she went through. The birth. The fear. The shame of being a single mom in a small city. I kept thinking you'd come back, she said. Every time the doorbell rang, I hoped. I looked down. I didn't deserve your hope. No, she said. But I gave it to you anyway. We sat in the dark, only the streetlight cutting through the window. I wanted to forget you, she whispered. But I couldn't. You were in her smile. Her laugh. Her stubbornness. I turned to her. Then don't forget me now. Her eyes flickered. She reached out, fingertips brushing mine. And for a second, we were there again. Young, wide-eyed, invincible. But reality returned with the ring of her phone. She looked at the screen and froze. Lucas. The man she almost married. The man who, apparently, still called. Are you going to answer? I asked quietly. She silenced it. Not now. But I could see it. A shadow in her eyes. You still talk to him? Sometimes. Do you still love him? She didn't answer. And I realized something. This wasn't just about me coming back. This was about her deciding if I was still part of her story. Or just a chapter she'd already closed. He showed up the next day. Tall, clean-cut, dressed like someone who had their whole life in order. I was helping Liana hang paper stars in her room when I heard the knock. Sophia opened the door. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw his eyes when he saw me. Cold. Controlled. Like a man who'd already calculated the odds and didn't like them. Lev, Sophia called. Could you give us a moment? I nodded, stepped out to the balcony. Their voices were muffled behind glass, but I didn't need to hear words to feel the tension. He gestured. She crossed her arms. He looked at Liana's door. She shook her head. When he left, he didn't say goodbye. Sophia stepped outside. He wanted to take us both to his parents for the weekend, she said quietly. Said we needed structure again. And you? I said no. A long pause. He was good to us, Leviticus steady. Kind. But not you. I didn't know if that was a compliment or a curse. That night, Liana asked. Are you my dad? There it was. Not in anger. Not in confusion. Just simple, honest curiosity, the kind that only hurts because of how pure it is. I looked at Sophia. She gave the slightest nod. I knelt beside Liana. I don't know for sure, I said carefully. But I want to be here for you. If that's okay. She looked at me for a long second. Then. Do you like dinosaurs? I blinked. Yeah. Good. I have a quiz tomorrow. And just like that, the conversation moved on. But inside me, something cracked open. And light started pouring in. Sophia and I stood in the kitchen later that night. Both of us exhausted. Both of us pretending we weren't holding our breath. She's amazing, I said. She is. Silence. Do you believe in second chances? I asked. Sophia looked at me. I used to, she said. Now. I believe in proving things. What do I need to prove? That you're staying. That you don't just want us, you want this. The boring days. The hard ones. The ones where we don't talk. The ones where she slams the door. The ones where I remember what it felt like when you left. I nodded. I'll prove it. 2 days later, Sophia handed me an envelope. I wrote this to you after Liana was born. Never sent it. 2 days later, Sophia handed me an envelope. I wrote this to you after Liana was born. Never sent it. I opened it slowly. Asterisk, you told me once that silence was your way of loving without hurting. But silence is sharp, Leviticus. It cuts deeper than words. I scream into pillows now, because you left me no voice to scream at you with. And still, I name her after your grandmother. I hope you come back. But if you don't, I'll keep teaching her about the stars. And I'll tell her she was loved. Even if her father forgot how to say it, asterisk. I folded the letter. My hands were shaking. I didn't forget, I whispered. I know, she said. She didn't move. But she didn't close the door either. And maybe that was a beginning. It started with a cough. Then a fever that burned like a fire in Liana's small body. I was there when Sophia called me at work, her voice cracking under the weight of panic. Can you come? She's really sick. I dropped everything and ran. At the hospital, the sterile smell mixed with the metallic scent of fear. Sophia was already there, pale and exhausted. Liana lay asleep, fragile, hooked up to machines. I held Sophia's hand. She didn't pull away. We'll get through this, I whispered. She looked at me, eyes wet. Together? Together. Days of waiting stretched on. Emotions ran raw. At one point, Sophia broke down. I'm scared, Levitica, scared I'll lose her. Scared I'm making the wrong choices. Scared that maybe you were right to leave. I squeezed her hand. I'm scared too. Scared I'm not enough. We were both broken pieces trying to fit. But that night, something shifted. After Liana's fever finally broke, Sophia and I sat in the quiet hospital corridor. I have to tell you something, she said. My heart pounded. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. Even when I said I hated you. Even when I moved on. I reached for her face. I love you too, I said. More than words. She smiled through tears. The morning sun spilled through the window. Liana laughed softly, playing with her toys. We sat together, three imperfect souls, learning to heal. Words had failed us before. But maybe, here, in the silence between, love could speak loudest.